If you're wondering what happened in the last 24 hours in the world, well, we know the answer. I'm Karolina Pajączkowska, and this is Flash News straight from Poland. We have our coronavirus daily update that we kick off with. Over 684,000 of Poles have been vaccinated already. Healthcare workers will have this stage behind very soon. On Monday, though, the vaccination of the first group, the seniors, will start, followed by younger people with chronic diseases and then uniformed services. What is more, field hospitals have joined the vaccination campaign.
One can register for vaccinations by calling 989 or logging into the online patient account. Many vaccination centers have all 3 places filled until the end of March, but since there is no division into regions for vaccinations, you can register outside of your place of residence. Every senior citizen in Poland who has registered for vaccination will certainly be vaccinated. The current lack of dates is due to one reason only: the manufacturer has limited the supply of vaccines to Poland. The restrictions have affected all EU countries. Increased supplies are planned for mid-February. Vaccinations for seniors aged 80+ begin on Monday. Right after them, in the first stage, chronically ill people, teachers and uniformed services are to be vaccinated.
Now we take a glance at the worldwide situation. It has been a year since the Chinese authorities placed Wuhan under an unprecedented quarantine. In practice, it meant cutting the city off from the rest of the world for almost 3 months. Where are we 12 months later? Well, conditions are still, unfortunately, dictated by the coronavirus.
Mission Solidarity launched. In Slovakia, about 200 Polish medics and firefighters are helping test residents of Bratislava and border areas for COVID-19. The process is very calm, scheduled without major queues. Systematically, every now and then someone comes in, but no standstill is created. Unless the results of the ongoing tests change this, a gradual loosening of restrictions is possible in the case of Poland's southern neighbor. First good news in a long time come from Italy as well. The infection rate has just dropped below 1. This, experts say, is a result of massive restrictions and a national lockdown during Christmas and New Year's season. France still has the longest curfew on the continent. French people are not allowed to leave their homes between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. We are testing whether the solution will work or whether we will reduce transmission. If yes, we will stop there. If not, unfortunately, a hard lockdown will be necessary. Portugal is facing increasing difficulties in storing corpses. A bad situation also in Germany. During the last 24 hours, 19,879 people died due to COVID-19. Thus, the number of victims exceeded 51,500 people. I am concerned about this number. We must take further measures to stop the spread of the coronavirus. The hard lockdown is extended here until the 14th of February. Education, catering and culture are closed. It is possible that the authorities will temporarily reinstate border controls.
It's time for international issues. Russia, more than 1,500 people were detained, including Alexei Navalny's wife, Yulia. Protests are underway across the whole country in defense of the oppositionist who returned to Moscow on Sunday and was immediately taken into custody. One of Vladimir Putin's biggest critics was being treated in Germany for Novichok and poisoning, possibly by Russian special services.
Hundreds of thousands of Russians dared to say enough to Vladimir Putin. The poisoning of Navalny is outrageous. It is state terror. There is nothing worse. I'm tired of sitting quietly. We have been quiet for too long. At least 40,000 people protested in Moscow. The demonstrations called for by Alexei Navalny were held not only in metropolises, but also in smaller cities, even here in Yakutsk, Siberia, at a temperature of 50 degrees Celsius below zero. What Putin fears, I think, is a repetition of the Belarusian scenario when the society actually opposed with one voice the will of those in power. Nearly 2,000 people were detained across Russia. Among them were Navalny's former associate Lyubov Sola and Navalny's wife Yulia, who was released after several hours. Lawlessness is taking place before our eyes. Putin and the oligarchs are afraid of losing their trough. Initiatives in support of Navalny also took place all over the world, including in front of the Russian embassy in Warsaw. Colleagues of the imprisoned Kremlin critic said the protest would continue next weekend.
In Flash News, we talk also about human stories. A battle against time is underway to save a Polish man who lies in a coma in a hospital in the UK without food or water. And this is actually with the permission of a local court. Sławomir already has a diplomatic passport and the permission of the Polish court to transfer him to the country. Well, now the decision is in the hands of the British authorities.
After his heart attack, he went into a coma. Now he is dying of hunger and thirst in an English hospital. His condition is getting worse all the time. He's dehydrated, just getting worse. It's still a miracle he's still alive after so many days. For more than a week now, the man has been lying cut off from water and food. This was the decision of the English court. God save us from laws that allow in the name of human dignity not to give him food and drink so that he dies. A diplomatic passport for the Pole has already arrived in the UK. The idea is that an English court's decision to disconnect a patient from life support should no longer be legally binding and that the patient can be transported to the country. A Polish court has already agreed to this. A plane with a medical crew is on standby to pick up the Pole at any possible moment. And everything is ready for the patient in the alarm clock clinic in Olsztyn.
In Flash News, it's time to ask a question. Is there censorship in the virtual world? Well, Facebook has blocked a documentary movie about German camp for Polish kids in Łódź, Poland. The platform explained that the film is political. It was only after the intervention of the Institute of National Remembrance that the film was unblocked for viewers from abroad. This is yet another example of limiting inconvenient content.
Bardzo walczyliśmy o chleb.
This is a fragment of a documentary by the Institute of National Remembrance about a German camp for Polish children which operated on Przemysłowa Street in Łódź during World War II. Children who were transported by the Germans from other places of detention were already malnourished and neglected. The movie has several language versions in order to spread awareness of German crimes against children. This is historical, which aims at commemorating the camp at Przemysłowa Street and its victims. But the media giant Facebook decided that the material published on the official account of the Institute of National Remembrance was political and hence decided to block it. The behavior of Facebook administrators seems to me to be incomprehensible. It is not at all this problem, it's not this topic, it's not this caliber. Let's not block the discussion about history. It is difficult to explain Facebook's decision, but it is not the first time. Millions of posts and videos are published every minute from billions of users around the world on social media platforms. Each of these private social media platforms has its own rules and regulations that users agree to. They are the creators of content, but it is up to the platform administrators to make the final decision on whether something appears online or is removed.
This is Flash News, and still more to come. On the auction market, such opportunities do not happen very often. The auction of works of the most prominent artists of all time, Botticelli, Rembrandt, and Bernini, was just begun in the New York Sotheby's. Due to a pandemic, the auction took place on the internet exclusively, which is not that weird.
The 15th century painting by Sandro Botticelli entitled A Portrait of a Young Man Holding a Medallion arouses most emotions. Renaissance works are hard to find on the contemporary art market, so the interest in it is enormous. Auction organizers say that the price can go up to as much as $100 million. Rembrandt's Abraham and the Angels is unlikely to achieve such a sum, but the potential buyer must be wealthy, just like someone who would like to possess Bernini's 17th century sculpture entitled Autumn. Chinese painter Zhuang Hongyi has not yet achieved Botticelli's fame, but he has a chance to go down in art history. For now, his works can be admired at the Museum of Modern Art in St. Petersburg. The artist's works are undoubtedly original. He created paintings inspired by Dutch landscapes from thousands of origami flakes. He explained to the participants of the opening that his works are a synthesis of painting and sculpture. He left the analysis to the audience. Ducks can quack, cows can moo, roosters can crow, and smells, though not perfumery-like, spread freely throughout the countryside. French parliamentarians recognized all these phenomena as part of their rural heritage and placed them under legal protection. All this so that the villagers do not have to explain in court why the roosters crow too loudly in their pens and the smell of manure irritates someone's sensitive nostrils. Alfred Hitchcock would have been delighted with this view. He wouldn't have to spend hours in front of the camera waiting for the right shot of the birds. On this highway near Diyarbakir in the southeast part of Turkey, he would have had plenty of them. Whole swarms of starlings appeared there. Perhaps they wanted to warm their feet on the dry pavement because beyond it, there is snow all over the place.
So it is time to fly away, not only the swans, also our show. Thank you very much for joining us on Flash News. I see you tomorrow, same time, with even more information straight from the world in Poland. Goodbye.